Hello, my name is Antonio Bettencourt. I'm the chef owner of 62 Restaurant and Wine Bar here in Salem, Mass. Today we're making braised lamb shanks, and we have a pan heating up on medium heat. We'll add a thin film of extra virgin olive oil. Usually people don't think of cooking with extra virgin olive oil, but that's classically Italian, especially Roman, which is the inspiration for this dish. And we do want to add that depth of flavor that extra virgin olive oil brings. The lamb shanks have already been seasoned liberally with salt. I like to season meat for things of this nature about a half an hour beforehand to give the salt a chance to really dissolve and penetrate the meat. Salt is not fat soluble; it doesn't dissolve in the olive oil. So if we were to add salt now, the act of the lamb hitting the pan would just knock all that salt off, and we'd be left with pretty bland tasting lamb. So right now the pan has been heating up, which is really important. We want to just put the lamb right in there. This process here of browning the meat is the most important process of the braised lamb. It'll add a nice caramelized color, which will add color to the braising liquid. Also adds a lot of depth of flavor. In French cooking, the brown bits of meat at the bottom is called the fond, which means the foundation, and that really emphasizes how important this step is. It is the absolute foundation of the dish. It's the very base of it. So this process here cannot be rushed, or shouldn't be rushed. We want to give it a good 10 to 15 minutes, 5 minutes on each side, and turn it over and make sure that the entire piece of lamb is well browned and caramelized. Okay, so now the lamb shanks have been browning in extra virgin olive oil for about 10 to 15 minutes. As each side browns and gets deeply colored, I'm turning it over to make sure that I get the entire surface of the lamb. And this is, again, a really important step because this browning, this caramelization adds a lot of flavor to the braised dish. There's actually a bit of a myth that you're sealing the meat and you're sealing in the juices, and that's actually, an impossibility because the meat is porous. But the main thing is we do this because it tastes really great. It's not really sealing anything, but just adding a ton of flavor. So now we're going to remove the lamb shanks to a clean bowl. We'll add a little bit more olive oil because as we're sauteing, a little bit of the olive oil jumps out. And now we're going to add our aromatics. We have red onion, sliced red onions go right in. We have some rosemary. We're going to add a little bit of slivered garlic. It really doesn't matter if it's slivered or just crushed or finely minced. This dish will cook for about 3 hours, and that garlic will essentially get annihilated. So don't really be too picky about how you cut your garlic. Here we have crushed red pepper. We like a little bit of heat. And then the two ingredients that might be a little bit out of the ordinary for people, we have anchovy fillet. And truthfully, if you're not cooking with anchovy, you're not cooking Italian, because that's actually a really important dish. It goes back to historic Rome. Worcestershire and soy sauce is actually based on things of this nature. And anchovy now has survived the ages, and Italians will use it to add a little bit of salt and depth to the dish. It doesn't add a fishy flavor whatsoever, so don't worry about that. We just want to keep this moving. And now my own adaptation to this dish is preserved lemon. It's a Moroccan condiment used in North African cuisine, Middle Eastern cuisine. And it's really interesting. It's lemon that has been packed in salt for up to a year. We make our own preserved lemons here, and what you want to use is just the lemon rind. You don't use the interior of the lemon. What's really interesting is that you get the full intensity and flavor of lemon, but without the acidic pucker of lemon juice. If you can't find it, a little bit of lemon juice is fine. But really, it's worth the trouble to find the preserved lemons in the Middle Eastern market or something like that. So now we're going to add a little white wine vinegar. What's really interesting about this is that it doesn't use white wine. Romans like a lot of strong flavors, hence the anchovy, the rosemary, the crushed red. And so now, continuing in that trend, we're adding a little white wine vinegar. And this liquid, it's a good idea to turn the stove off at home if you're not accustomed to this massive plume of steam. Also, if it's really hot, you could get a wall of flame. So just turn the burner off. That's fine. Once the vinegar is in there, it'll deglaze the pan. And what deglazing is pulling up all of those brown bits of meat that developed on the bottom of the pan, the fond that we were talking about earlier. That's from the lamb, and now we're scraping that up, and that's now flavoring this liquid, and will flavor the dish in the end. So now this cooks for a very brief, couple of minutes or so. We don't want to overcook the onions at this point, because they will cook for a long time. Again, the lamb will be cooking in the oven for about 3 hours or so. So now the lamb comes back to the pan, and very important, now we're going to cover the pan very tightly. We added only about 1/4 cup of vinegar, and so what's really important, what's really interesting, is we need to cover this, and that 1/4 cup of liquid might not look like enough, but if we go to this trouble of covering it very, very tightly, that will be more than enough. What happens is the liquid rises up, it hits the top of the parchment paper, this is parchment paper, right up on top of the lamb. Don't use wax paper, it'll melt, and you don't want to eat that. So the parchment paper here, and then we'll cover it very tightly with foil, and the liquid, the steam will rise up, hit the surface of the lid, and drop back down. And instead of evaporating and flavoring the walls of your oven, basically it'll drop back down and continually intensify and flavor the dish. But also this 1/4 cup, which I always find amazing, is it will miraculously become 2 to 3 cups of liquid, plenty enough to sauce the 2 portions that we have here for a dinner party. And now this will go into the oven for about, the oven is set at 325 degrees. That's kind of standard oven temperature for a braise. Braising like pot roast, short ribs, etc. So 325. A big piece of meat like that, 3 hours should be good. 2.5 to 3 hours should be good at a steady simmer. Okay, so our lamb shanks are braising in the oven. They have about 2.5 to 3 hours or so. So unfortunately, you don't have 3 hours to just hang out. When there's about a half an hour left, we need to now start with the farro, which is a starchy accompaniment for the dish. Okay, what we have here is celery, carrot, and onion, which is commonly referred to as mirepoix. We have a pan with a little bit of olive oil heating on medium-high heat. So we're going to start by cooking the mirepoix. And we want to give this mirepoix just as much consideration as we gave to the lamb shanks when we were browning. Unfortunately with me, nothing is just a quick, dump and go. We want to really give this about 10 to 15 minutes. This process is called sweating. The mirepoix is cooking in olive oil and releasing all of its liquid. The liquid evaporates and it intensifies the flavor, also amplifying the natural sugars present in the vegetables. To help that process along, we add salt right now. The salt draws out the moisture, expediting this process of sweating. And that may look like a lot of salt, but keep in mind we're going to be adding this farro here. We have a good 2 cups of cooked farro. This has just been cooked in plain boiling water, so this will balance out ultimately in the end. So now we're going to be adding the farro to the mirepoix, and even though it's been cooked in boiling water, just like pasta, we want to add a little bit of moisture. I'd like it to be a little bit softer. You certainly can eat it right now as is after that 10-minute time frame. It's just a little al dente. But to get it a little bit softer, we're going to add about 1/4 cup or so of water. Leave the heat on medium and just put a lid on it right there and give it another 10 minutes or so, and the farro will bloom and soften and crack that husk. It'll be nice and soft for the braised lamb shanks. It's been about 2.5 to 3 hours, and the lamb shanks are coming out of the oven. We want to take off our lid. Okay, you want to be very careful with that because, of course, that's hot. So here are the braised lamb shanks. You can see they've shrunk a little bit in size. They're really, really tender. They're falling off the bone, which is exactly what you're looking for with the braise. At this point, this could be done the day of, and you could eat it right now. It would be fantastic. But this is a really great dish for entertaining because this can be done the day ahead. With the sauce, however, there'd be a little bit of a layer of fat that will set up, almost like butter. You just want to scrape that off. If you're eating it right now, just spoon it away and get rid of it. You don't want to eat all of that fat because it does taste a little greasy. So now we'll assemble the dish. Here we have our farro. It's been 10 to 15 minutes. Just put it down on a plate as a little base. That's a pretty good portion right there. Now we'll grab a lamb shank. Good balancing trick right there. Okay, and here at the restaurant, I like to finish it with a little bit of the braising liquid, of course, leaving away some of that fat. We have some of the garlic, the preserved lemon, and now we like to finish it also with salsa verde. It's a very simple green sauce. That's what salsa verde means. It's just chopped shallots, capers, parsley, and extra virgin olive oil, and that is the completed dish right there.